Welcome back. The nearly 2-year-long Mueller investigation costing taxpayers $25.2 million and about 40 FBI agents with hundreds of interviews. So we asked whether you think the full Mueller report should be made public, and the reaction was mixed. Dion on Facebook writing, release it, then build an ark for liberal tears. And then Kyle writes, AG is spot on. Only way it gets released is if the law allows. He must follow the law regardless. And that, excuse me, that wraps up our hour of Fox and Friends First. Thank you so much for joining us. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Have a great day.
There was no collusion with Russia. There was no obstruction.
This report does not amount to a so-called total exoneration.
I don't want a summary. I want the whole damn report.
This was an illegal takedown that failed.
Happy Monday. It's March 25th. This is a Fox News Alert. What a busy weekend. Robert Mueller's report is signed, sealed, and delivered.
The AG says it finds no evidence of collusion. And as President Trump takes a legal victory lap, his administration says it's time to investigate the investigators.
But Democrats still are not done yet with collusion, insisting the door is still wide open, I should say, with obstruction.
That's right. Fox and Friends First continues right now.
The special counsel essentially punted, saying that there was evidence on both sides. The special counsel, therefore, did not draw a conclusion one way or the other as to whether the examined conduct constituted obstruction. And that left the matter in the hands of the Attorney General, who made a determination over the weekend that there just wasn't enough evidence to make a case on obstruction. That is a decision that Democrats are questioning.
We will ask the Attorney General to testify before the House Judiciary Committee. We will demand the release of the full report. The American people are entitled to a full accounting of the President's misconduct referenced by the special counsel.
Now, you're hearing that a lot from Democrats, demanding the release of the full report. It looks like that is going to happen, minus some redactions. We just don't know a timeline for when the portions of the report will be released. Rob and Jillian.
All right. But when it is, we will have it.
That's right. Doug, thanks. All right, the outcome of the special counsel's investigation may have you asking how, or maybe even why, it started in the first place.
And Todd Pyro is here to break down the timeline of the Russia probe, in case you need a little refresher, because it's been a while.
Yeah, guys, so how did we get here? Tried to boil this down to about 2 minutes, so these are really just some of the absolutely key dates in a saga filled with them. Starting in 2017, January 10th, BuzzFeed publishes the unverified and since discredited Russian dossier alleging that Russia has compromising information on President Trump. March 4, President Trump asserts that Trump Tower was wiretapped before Election Day by the Obama administration. May 17th, Rod Rosenstein announces Robert Mueller's appointment as special counsel on Russian election interference, a move that comes almost immediately after Trump fires James Comey as FBI director. June 14th, the Washington Post reports that Mueller is investigating Trump for possible obstruction of justice after Comey testified that the president asked him to end the FBI's investigation into Michael Flynn. October 30th, Mueller's first indictment results in 12 counts against Paul Manafort, the former Trump campaign chair, including conspiracy, tax fraud, and money laundering. December 1, Flynn pleads guilty to lying and agrees to cooperate. Now to 2018, February 16th, Mueller indicts 13 Russians and 3 Russian entities on charges of interfering in the 2016 election. April 9th, the feds raid the apartment, hotel room, and office of Michael Cohen, Trump's personal lawyer. July 13th, Mueller indicts 12 Russians in 2016 DNC hack, accusing them of conspiring to interfere in the presidential race. September 14th, Manafort pleads guilty and agrees to cooperate. November 20th, Trump submits written answers to Mueller, avoiding that in-person sit-down. Then this year, January 25th, Roger Stone, an informal advisor to Trump presidential campaign, is indicted on charges of obstruction, false statements, and witness tampering. Then, on Friday, as we all know, Mueller delivered his report to the DOJ, ending the investigation. Guys?
All right, Todd. Thank you.
No problem.
No evidence of collusion. So where do we go from here?
Joining us now to talk about this is constitutional law attorney and former prosecutor Jenna Ellis. Jenna, thanks for coming on. Even over at CNN, Jeffrey Toobin, one of the guys, said it's clear this is vindication on collusion, but there's this hanging, mystery about obstruction that I think Democrats are still hanging on to. What do you say?
Yeah, this really isn't an open legal question, and what the Democrats are disregarding is the full page of Barr's report and his summary that clearly established that this is not going anywhere legally speaking. And so what a lot of the mainstream media is reporting is actually cutting off that very important sentence to say that the investigation was not sufficient to establish that there's no evidence. What the summary report actually said was that the evidence developed during the special counsel's investigation was not sufficient to establish an obstruction of justice charge. What that means is that there was not enough evidence, legally speaking. So this is a completely closed issue, and Barr goes on to lay out the legal construct that he has to go through to make this determination. And because there is no underlying collusion, there is no underlying act, then he also talks about how there is not even a sufficient nexus for President Trump to even be obstructing anything to begin with, because he's never been charged with anything. So this is just an open and shut case. The Democrats are just grasping at straws here.
Let's stick with talking about AG Barr for a second here, and let's read this joint statement from Pelosi and Schumer about Barr's letter that at this point we have all seen. And it says, quote, given Mr. Barr's public record of bias against the special counsel's inquiry, he is not a neutral observer and is not in a position to make objective determinations about the report. I'm curious what you think about that. I'm also curious what you think about the fact that there's a lot of criticism going on right now that Barr has come out with this after just 2 days, when people are saying, well, it took Mueller, almost 2 years. So this timing is they're arguing about it.
Yeah, well, as to Barr's unbiased nature, I mean, let's not forget that he's not new to the game here. He was Attorney General under President Bush 41. He's had a long track record. He had all of the Senate hearings in which he promised to be transparent, promised to look at this. He has a very clear track record of being an independent prosecutor doing his job. So I think that that's a ridiculous talking point on the left. But second, when we're talking about his determination and what he's looking at here, I mean, his summary even indicated that there were multiple conversations throughout this 22-month process that the special counsel had with the Department of Justice. Let's not forget that this is a summary. There were 19 lawyers under Mueller. There was so much that was going on. This isn't something where Attorney General Barr is just doing this flippantly or looking at this just in 48 hours.
If there was anything wrong with that summary, the special counsel didn't say a lot during the investigation, but when the BuzzFeed story came out that was incorrect, they jumped out and said, hey, this isn't right. So if that summary would have been in question, somebody from Mueller's office would have come out and said something about it. We got to switch it to topic 2 here. We've got a second thing to talk about, and that's the beginning of this, how this all started. And there was a New York Post op-ed that said maybe Obama, maybe Clinton should be probed about how this all began, maybe Comey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the American people deserve to have parity, have equal justice under the law. Equal protection under the law means that you don't get investigated just because you have an R after your name. That's not what the law enforcement is supposed to do. So if we're actually looking into the 2016 election and we do have indictments that Russian government officials and others have been charged and have actually pled guilty and been found guilty of these crimes, we need to be looking at everyone who might be involved here, not just the people with R's after their name. So I think it's entirely appropriate for the American people to have legitimacy in law enforcement and to make sure that everyone, including Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, anyone else, is fully investigated with the same vigor as the Mueller investigation, and especially from the mainstream media. Why is this only hatred toward President Trump? Because, as he said yesterday, this was a biased investigation that was simply targeting him from the very beginning.
Jenna, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
It is 11 minutes after the hour. President Trump's re-election campaign wasting no time using the Mueller findings to its advantage.
The evidence is pretty clear that there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians.
Well, did the Democrats just gift the president an early 2020 win? And Ryan has called the probe a fairy tale from the start. He joins us live next.
And how is James Comey handling the no collusion news? Very oddly. We're going to show you this coming up. Stay tuned.
The evidence is pretty clear that there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians.
I think there's plenty of evidence of collusion or conspiracy in plain sight.
We saw strong evidence of collusion.
Well, we know there was collusion with people in the campaign.
Well, you had to expect it. It was bound to happen. President Trump's re-election campaign already pouncing on Bob Mueller's report, releasing that video, slamming Democrats for all of those claims about collusion.
Are they helping his bid for re-election? Big question there. Here to weigh in is Republican strategist and CEO of American Majority, Ned Ryan. Good morning, Ned. I see you're getting a little chuckle right now at 5:15 here on the East Coast anyway. What do you think this does for the president going forward?
Well, I think it absolutely helps him, guys. I mean, his 2020 re-election bid I thought was going to be strong anyway, even if the Mueller probe was continuing into 2020. And now I think that he's been cleared of all collusion, and I think the whole obstruction thing is a complete joke. I think Democrats are going to have a really hard time running against him if the economy continues to be strong and all these other policy items of his continue to be a success. But the thing about it, too, that people aren't really, I think, focused on too much is you really think Trump and his supporters, myself included, are going to say, oh, I'm so glad that we've cleared up this misunderstanding and can move on? Heck no. I think the next 2 years could be actually really problematic for the Democrats. I'd love to know where this all started. I want to see the original memo laying out the scope of the Mueller investigation. I want to see the FISA applications. I want to see every last bit of information that spun up this complete hoax and fairy tale that has been used to undermine President Trump, and I really think destabilize our democracy for the last 2 years. We're not going to simply go, hey, glad we're done with this. Heck no. Yeah. Let's continue on and find and get all the answers we deserve.
And what about just, I mean, the frenzy that was whipped up by all of this? I mean, the last 2 years nearly talking about this. I mean, other networks, this is all they've talked about. And their viewers are so invested in this idea at this point. I mean, how do you take people like that and say, hey, get ready to vote in 2020 because we really need you to trust us?
Yeah, and we've been lying to you for the last 2 years. No, I think this is very problematic, Rob, for a lot of people in the mainstream media. I thought they already had credibility problems coming into this administration. I think the last 2 years they've literally poured gasoline on themselves and lit themselves on fire. I don't know how they're going to get people to trust them moving forward because they have pushed, I think, one of the greatest conspiracy theories that we've seen in our history, not only with the mainstream media, but now you've got members of Congress like Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell and all these others that have been pounding the table, claiming they have proof and evidence of collusion. I'm not sure how any of the American people can take these members of Congress seriously moving forward. But the problem is, you're right, Rob, a lot of the resistance, a lot of the hard left, they have been promised, they have invested so much time and energy and emotional energy into this. I don't know where they go from this except for they're going to have to spin up something new or they're simply not going to walk away. I think they're going to try and hang a peg on this whole obstruction of justice, cling to some sort of hope instead of see all of this stuff go up in smoke and flames.
Well, Ned, I think it's not a surprise to anybody that most Democrats not accepting the results of this investigation. You already heard pretty much all of them saying that they want to see the full report. In fairness, people on both sides are saying they want to see the full report. I'm curious if you want to see it or have you seen enough at this point, and what you would say to the Democrats who are just pressing this right now.
Well, first of all, I have to say, Jillian, I think Democrats are handling the 2016 loss so well. I think that they have finally come to that conclusion they've lost, and I'm being deeply sarcastic. This is one of the greatest political tantrums ever. Because they really are, this is all about trying to nullify the 2016 election. They cannot accept that Donald Trump is in the White House. And I would say he's going to be in the White House for another 6 years. No, this is going to be punishment by process. They're not going to accept these results. They're going to find something new. They're going to continue to pound away at him in hopes that they can somehow weaken him before the 2020 elections. Of course, I want to see every last shred of evidence because I think that it's going to actually help Trump's cause, Jillian, and make the argument that I've been making for over 2 years. This is a fairy tale. There was no evidence. There is no evidence. There never will be evidence. And I want people to fully understand that what was being done by people like John Brennan and James Clapper and James Comey and Andrew McCabe was nothing short of a silent coup to take out Donald Trump. It is a shame. It is a miscarriage of justice. And as your previous guest said, the American people have to understand, if we do not protect the rule of law and equal application of it, that has very, very detrimental problems for our republic moving forward. We have to come to the point where we can actually trust our legal system again. And right now, I think we've got serious problems with it.
All right. Ned, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, as always.
Thanks, guys. 19
minutes after the hour, House Intel Chair Adam Schiff not shifting on collusion, saying this just hours before that report's release.
There is significant evidence of collusion, and we've set that out time and time again.
All right, so we got to hear from him after reading the report. But if he had evidence all of this time of collusion, he said it over and over again, why didn't he hand that evidence over to Bob Mueller?
And calling it a career, the New England Patriots star who just announced retirement. Good Monday morning. Welcome back. The Israeli military reinforcing troops along the Gaza border following a rocket attack. 7 people were hurt when the rocket destroyed a home north of Tel Aviv. It came from the Gaza Strip. No group has claimed responsibility. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu now vowing retaliation as he cuts his trip to the U.S. short. He's in D.C. as the president formally recognizes Israeli control over the Golan Heights.
All right, a new caravan of 1,200 migrants is heading toward the U.S.-Mexico border. The group from Central America and Cuba, actually, is in southern Mexico right now. No word yet on when they will reach our border. President Trump declared a national emergency to fund a southern border wall last month. It's been met with, of course, steep opposition. People in Alabama could soon use their tax refunds to help build a southern border wall. The state Senate there passing a bill that would allow people to opt to donate part of their state tax return to pay for construction of the border wall. Lawmakers say it's a great way for people to show support for the president and border security. That bill is now moving to the state house.
Interesting. The first wave of defendants accused in a massive national college admission scandal will face a judge today. At least 12 of the 50 people charged are expected in a Boston courtroom for paying and accepting bribes worth millions of dollars. 7 of the 9 college coaches involved will be present, including fired legendary USC water polo coach Jovan Vavic.
All right, to March Madness now. Oregon heading to the Sweet 16 after blowing out UC Irvine. The Ducks besting the Anteaters, there's a team name for you, 73-54.
And top-seeded Duke surviving a scare from Central Florida in the final seconds.
I would have loved this if Duke had blown out of that thing. All right, Tennessee nearly blows a 25-point lead before winning overtime nail-biter over Iowa 83-77.
And how about this? Not really a surprise to many people, but New England Patriots star Rob Gronkowski is retiring after 9 seasons. The tight end says he will, quote, move forward with a big smile, knowing that the New England Patriots organization, Pats Nation, and all my fans will be truly a big part of my heart for the rest of my life.
He's going to party for the next 40 years. Quarterback Tom Brady posting on Instagram, quote, the NFL was a better place with you in it.
Wide receiver Julian Edelman calling Gronk the other GOAT. If you don't know, if you live under a rock, that means greatest of all time. It's unclear what Gronk plans to do next.
I thought it was an insult. I thought people were calling, you're a GOAT.
Really?
Like I think you're a GOAT.
He's kidding. He better be.
Kidding. Don't you know me yet? Haven't you met me before? 26 minutes after the hour, the Mueller report finds no collusion. So is it time to investigate the investigators and go backwards on this thing? Our next guest follows the inner workings of the Justice Department, and he says the FBI and Hillary Clinton could be next.
So we have a lot of questions that are not answered in this letter.
These 4 pages that Barr wrote, they don't have a single full sentence quoting the Mueller report at all.
This isn't getting resolved in this country until November 2020.
Bet you can't guess who can't come to terms with the no collusion headline. Aisha Husni here with the left-leaning media meltdown.
Good morning. How are you?
Good Monday morning, and this morning, President Trump declaring victory.
That's right. Attorney General Bill Barr releasing his initial review of the Mueller report, and the findings do appear to be quite good for the president.
There was no collusion with Russia. There was no obstruction. It was a complete and total exoneration. This was an illegal takedown that failed. And hopefully somebody's going to be looking at the other side.
The report also revealing there's not enough evidence to find the president obstructed justice, but that's still not enough for the Democrats.
Yeah, some are saying they want the full report released, well, most saying that, and they want Bill Barr to testify, maybe even Bob Mueller to testify on Capitol Hill.
Decision about that evidence in under 48 hours. His conclusions raise more questions than the answer.
Another top Democrat, House Intelligence Chair Adam Schiff, isn't backing down. He's been claiming for a while now to have evidence of collusion for more than a year.
Have Democrats found any evidence of collusion?
Yes, we have. So there's clear evidence on the issue of collusion, and this adds to that body of evidence. That, to me, is direct evidence, but there's also abundant circumstantial evidence. And there is significant evidence of collusion. I did say that there is ample evidence, and indeed there is, of collusion.
Fascinating.
That's a small sample of how many times that was said. Schiff tweeting, quote, Mueller spent 2 years investigating obstruction of justice and found evidence that does not exonerate Trump. Barr took 2 days to set aside that evidence. The entire report must be published and evidence provided to Congress so the American people can judge for themselves.
Even the president has said in the past, make it all public.
Yeah, that's
we'll see. Findings of no collusion trigger a media meltdown.
There is a very big difference between trying to get enough evidence for a criminal charge, president or not, and making a political determination on Capitol Hill.
So we have a lot of questions that are not answered in this letter.
In this summary from Barr tonight, the clear outlines of a new fight from Donald Trump's handpicked attorney general. The other key thing to know is that these 4 pages that Barr wrote, they don't have a single full sentence quoting the Mueller report at all.
Politically, the toothpaste is already out of the tube, as they say.
Yeah.
So, you know, this isn't getting resolved in this country until November 2020.
Yeah. Well, it certainly appears that many familiar faces in the media are grasping for a different outcome, claiming that there's still smoke, that there's still a possibility of charges for obstruction. Aisha Hasni is here with more on that.
Yeah, Rob Jillian, 2 years, $25 million, 500 witnesses. If you thought the Mueller report would have put an end to all the speculation, think again. The mainstream news media trying to come to terms with the no collusion headline now. Some still looking for smoke, as you said. Now suggesting it's time for the Democrat-controlled House to decide whether or not the president obstructed justice and if impeachment is still on the table. But not everybody's buying this. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders taking to Twitter here, writing this. Democrats and their liberal media allies for 2 years slandered President Trump for, quote, conspiring with Russia. It was all a malicious, preposterous lie, given wall-to-wall media coverage despite zero evidence. This should never again happen to an American president.
This gets to the problem we have with the media in America today. If you've watched MSNBC, if you watched CNN for the last 2 years, you've been fed a constant diet of Donald Trump colluded. For 2 years, 2 networks have led the American people to the conclusion that it must be collusion.
Okay, so the question now, will there be any apologies, any accountability? We will see. Rob Jillian. All right, Aisha. Thank you.
All right, nearly 2 years, about 3,000 subpoenas, and no evidence of collusion, and now it appears the tables are turning.
So what do we know about how the probe started, and is there a case to be made against the investigators? Joining us to discuss is former Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the DOJ's Criminal Division, John Malcolm. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I'm curious, just before we dive in, about your general overview of what you make of the news that came out over the weekend. I mean, this has been nearly 2 years. This has disrupted so many people's lives.
Well, it certainly has, and it's certainly been upsetting to the American people that it's cast a shadow over our last election. I mean, obviously, the House Judiciary Committee is going to continue to investigate the president, but they are not going to uncover any new facts that Bob Mueller has not uncovered. I mean, Bob Mueller had 19 attorneys working with him, 40 FBI agents, hundreds, if not thousands of subpoenas, interviewed 500 witnesses. He is a man of the utmost integrity. He is very thorough. Anybody who knows him or knows of his reputation knows that. And Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler are going to try very hard. They will present all sorts of innuendos, but they will not uncover any new facts to establish collusion in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, as we see the numbers there on the big screen. President's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, saying to Fox News there needs to be another investigation. Let's look at a quote here from Rudy. There has to be a full and complete investigation with at least as much enthusiasm as this one. Good luck with that. To figure out where did this charge emanate, who started it, who paid for it. So the names being thrown around, even Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, the people that were running the show when this kind of came into focus.
Well, Hillary Clinton was out as Secretary of State. Barack Obama was certainly president. Nobody is going to investigate him. One thing I wish they would look at would be the unmasking issue involving people in the intelligence community who were working at a very high level for him. Look, I think that the House Judiciary Committee is going to continue to look at the president, and I think that the Senate Judiciary Committee is going to look into these matters of how the investigation began. The Department of Justice has some decisions to make. They're deciding whether or not to indict Andrew McCabe. They have to figure out what to do with people like Bruce Orr. And most importantly, to my mind, the Department of Justice's Inspector General is continuing to look at potential abuses of the FISA process, how the FBI conducted the Clinton email server investigation. Perhaps he's looking into the investigation for the Clinton Foundation. So there are people looking at this. Where it will go is hard to say, but the Department of Justice's Inspector General is a very thorough man, and his investigation is clearly ongoing.
Two questions for you here. The first one is involving the Department of Justice. Look, this put a lot of doubt in people's minds all across the country. It added to the divide in the country that people speak about. So I want to get your take on that. And also, why do you say that they wouldn't investigate Obama?
Well, because the president, I think, is removed from these things. I doubt that anybody came to him and said, we've got this phonied up dossier, but we're going to try to sneak this into a FISA warrant because we want to have an insurance policy to make sure that Donald Trump wins the presidency. If there was such evidence, then perhaps you could look at Barack Obama. But, you know, I would be shocked if such evidence existed. I think that this is all being done by, people below the president. Look, we'll now have to see what General Barr releases in terms of the Mueller report. All of your guests are coming on and saying he needs to release the whole thing. I actually think that the president would like the whole thing to be released, but General Barr has other things to consider. He has to determine whether grand jury material, which is supposed to be secret, is contained in that report. He's already said that there is grand jury material in there. The Department of Justice does not typically smear people who have not been charged with a crime or who are cooperating as witnesses. So he's going to work with the special counsel to figure out what can be made public and what can't be. He has said that he is going to err on the side of transparency, and I believe him.
Yeah. You got. I mean, I feel like though with an investigation, if you're going to try and go back and investigate how it all came to fruition, there's not going to be nearly the energy that Rudy Giuliani is calling for with that. I don't think the media is going to have much interest in it. I just think it's going to fall flat. What do you think?
Look, everybody's going to try to score their political points. In your montage leading up to introducing me, Chuck Todd said that this isn't going to be settled until 2020. He's probably right about that. I mean, people are appealing to their base and the folks who are undecided about what they want to do with the next election. But this was certainly a very good day for the president. I mean, Bob Mueller, very thorough 2-year investigation, has come to the conclusion that there was no evidence of any conspiracy or collusion. He will certainly testify before the House Judiciary Committee, as will General Barr, and I have no doubt that he will be able to back up his findings.
That's interesting. All right. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
It is just about 20 minutes until the top of the hour. 2020 candidates using the Mueller findings as fodder on the campaign trail. How the big names in the crowded Democratic field are responding.
And how is James Comey handling the no collusion news? Carly Shimkus is here with this picture and a tweet and everybody talking about it. All right, welcome back. Despite Bob Mueller finding no collusion, the 2020 Democratic hopefuls appear to be refusing to accept the special counsel's opinions here.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines, 24/7 Sirius XM 115, here with what everyone is saying online. Good morning, Carly.
Yeah, hey, good morning, guys. So while President Trump has declared complete and total exoneration, Democrats are hoping the devil is in the details and demanding the full report be released.
The Mueller report must be made public.
I don't want a summary of the report. I want the whole damn report.
Our democracy was attacked by a foreign power, and I think we've got to see if it was also attacked from within by somebody who sought to assume power.
All right, well, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren doubling down on Twitter, saying Congress voted 420-0 to release the full Mueller report, not a summary from his handpicked Attorney General A.G. Barr. Make the full report public immediately. Former Maryland Congressman and 2020 hopeful John Delaney not releasing the report sends a message to Russia that there will not be full transparency with the American people as it relates to their efforts to interfere with our election. And New Jersey Senator Cory Booker also weighing in on Twitter, saying the American public deserves the full report and findings from the Mueller investigation immediately, not just the in-house summary from a Trump administration official. At a time when both Democrats and Republicans disagree on so much, one thing is clear here. They agree with this because President Trump has also called for the full report to be released, guys.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. Greg Gutfeld always has something interesting to say, doesn't he?
Well, so did some members of the media go too far in pushing the Russia collusion narrative? Our very own Greg Gutfeld seems to think so. He tweeted this, saying CNN asking if the hype over collusion has been in overdrive, pretending as if they're simply spectators. Their blind spot is so large, it swallowed them whole. One person on Twitter responding to that tweet, John says CNN has been in overdrive more than any other network. Some people have described this moment in time, guys, as the end of the beginning, meaning so much more is going to come from this. And given the fact that we've heard already that more hearings are being called for, more investigations being called for as well, it does seem like we're going to be talking about this for a few more years.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Sure.
And James Comey with just the weirdest tweet I think I saw all weekend.
So shortly after William Barr released his summary of the Mueller report, former FBI Director James Comey responded by tweeting this picture that shows him looking up at the sky, standing in a forest of tall trees. He wrote that with the caption, "So many questions." Well, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham responded to that with this tweet saying, "Could not agree more. See you soon." A clear sign that Republicans are interested in investigating how this whole thing got started, guys.
I thought it was so weird.
Right?
All right. Thank you so much, Carla. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Time to check in with Brian Kilmeade to see what's coming up on Fox and Friends. I'm sure you've got an opinion on that James Comey tweet, Brian.
Right. We won't know if James Comey ever got out of the forest to even see the trees. We don't know. But this is how serious we're going to be over the next 3 hours and how unique our show is going to be. They moved me downstairs and gave us a desk. That's how serious it's going to be. And it's a lot of hoopla. And, of course, the number one topic, Rob Gronkowski. He's retiring. And we're going to spend 3 hours looking back at his career and his goofy antics with beer, much like what Rob did over the weekend. But besides that, we're also going to try to squeeze in something about the Mueller probe. Kellyanne Conway said about the president, and I'll paraphrase, they just don't get you. She's going to expand on that with us live today. Rudy Giuliani, they said he was crazy. What kind of strategy is this? Well, his client just got exonerated in the Mueller probe. How great does he feel today? He will be with us live. And when the 675-page report is released in any form, is it going to bring up this whole conversation again? And a man that's been by the president's side every step of the way and a believer in the president's authenticity, Mark Meadows. Where do we go from now? Is it time to probe the people that started the probe to begin with? Alan Dershowitz calling out the media, saying there's hell to pay, and he called out CNN in particular. How does he feel now? Probably no different. Probably elaborate on that. And a man who put together a probe very similar to this, Ken Starr, will be here and talk about why they didn't investigate anything after the Ken Starr report came out. So that's the story, all coming up over the next 3 hours as soon as Jillian and Rob finish talking in 12 minutes.
Good guess you got there, Brian. All right. Thanks so much.
See you then.
You got it.
We'll be right back.
Now that we know that Bob Mueller has ruled out Trump-Russia collusion in 2016, do the Democrats need a new message ahead of this big election coming up in 2020? And can any of the Democratic candidates compete with President Trump on the actual issues here? How will that fare? Here to debate is partner at Stampede Consulting, Holly Turner, and former consultant for the Department of Homeland Security, Mustafa Tamiz. Guys, thanks for coming on this morning. Mustafa, going to start with you. Obviously, for your party, this was a rough weekend. What do you make of how this will fare in 2020 as you guys move that direction?
Well, I disagree. I think it's a good day when the nation's most respected prosecutor can say that the President of the United States was not involved in a criminal conspiracy with Russia, our noted adversary.
It is a good day, but it's a bad day for your
United
party.
States politics. It's a big. No, I don't. I think it's a good day for our country, and I think that's really what's more important. And from a political standpoint, we still don't know why 17 members of his campaign met with Russians over 100 times. Putting that aside, I do think that the president is still in significant trouble because he's polling way under 50%, sometimes under 40%. And the sugar high from the $1 trillion tax cut in our economy is about to run out. We have the highest trade deficit that we've ever had. We've had the highest budget deficit that we've ever had. And the economy that's doing well, that we were told that we're going to be 3-4% GDP gains.
Let me go to Holly real quick.
Unfortunately.
And he's talking about the economy. I mean, a lot of people say 3.9% unemployment is not a sugar high. There's a lot of good news about the economy. If the economy stays strong, how do these 2020 guys, how do they handle the president coming up? Because now he's not under the cloud of investigation.
Right. Well, these 2020 candidates have got to be reconsidering why they even entered this race in the beginning. They were not the only ones that were deceived by this collusion lie. Along with the American public, they assumed that all they had to do was get out of the primary and it would be a slam dunk against the president in the general election. So now they are going to have to come up with some real policies, and it's tough because we are living in the Trump economy. Lowest unemployment, highest wages. I mean, this is a great time. It's the most prosperity many of us have seen in our lifetimes. So what are they going to bring to the table to offer to the American people? It's going to be a tough road for them.
Let's take a look at some numbers here. We've got some Fox News polls here comparing the candidates. If Biden and Trump went head-to-head, we've got Biden by about 7% right now. We even have Bernie Sanders beating the president at this point if the election was held today. And then you got Liz Warren and Kamala Harris both losing to the president by a point or two. Mustafa, that certainly seems like good news for your party. But again, polls don't always tell the full story. And you guys thought you had a slam dunk in 2016. It sounds like a lot of these candidates might think they have it again here in 2020.
Look, I mean, it's very early. There's a lot that can happen. But the fact of the matter is that the president has not made any attempt to expand beyond his base. And his base is not enough to get him over the finish line.
Can I jump in real quick? Are you worried about how far left your candidates are you worried about how far left your party is moving right now? Because that could be the detrimental factor.
I'm worried about I'm more worried about where the president is headed with his policies that are detrimental to our nations. Look what he's doing in North Korea. He's rolling back the sanctions that the rest of the bureaucracy, the rest of national intelligence organizations say that we should have on North Korea. He's rolling it back because he happens to be in love with Kim Jong-un. That makes no sense. The president is taking us in the wrong direction.
I do have to cut it.
He's going to lose the election.
I know. We are out of time. I understand. A lot of people would disagree and say that the economy in the country is not rolling in the wrong direction. We do have to say that, and we'll be right back, guys. Thanks so much.